Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're gonna use Ableton Drift to create some nice lush pads. Let's jump into Ableton. Alright, so the patch sounds like this. So this kind of sound is perfect if you do like ambient or dub techno. So let's get rid of this and start from scratch with Drift. Now to get this type of sound you need to have a very rich signal, and the best way to do that before to touch even Drift is to make sure you play chords or a combination of a lot of notes together. So we're gonna use the chord MIDI effect, and first we're gonna decide to make a major chord. So when you press one note it's gonna obviously do major chord. Okay, compared to. And we're gonna add as well +9 semitone just to spice things up and make it more interesting. Yeah, this straight away make it more dreamy. Now we're gonna use even another chord device. So with another chord now we're gonna have at 0 our default, but also at a +12 semitone, so an octave upper. But also 3 octave upper, so +36. So now you have 3 times a chord of 4 notes playing. Alright, already we have a rich sound. Now, usually the best waveform in Drift to get this type of rich sound is to use a sawtooth. We're just gonna crank up the shape a little. Like this, and here we're gonna use this waveform as well, slightly detune. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna keep filter 1 and we're gonna bring down the filter a little bit. Same again, we can modulate it. From that point we can start to group and create our rack. Here I just have 4 macros, so let's reduce it, and I'm gonna map the filter to macro 1 and the resonance to macro 2, rename it. We're gonna leave the type 1 because it's a 12 dB, so it's not as abrupt as 24 dB, which is good for pads. And we can conquer the high pass filter as well. Just everything under 98 Hz getting rid of. You can play with that and modulate it obviously as well, but more on that later. One thing I haven't done is maybe cranking up the resonance. The thing I haven't done it because if I do it like this it doesn't make any sense, but if I start to sweep the filter compared to with no resonance, obviously it's accentuating the sweeping effect, it adds a bit more character. Now we're gonna shape the amplitude here and we're gonna add a longer attack, probably around 500 milliseconds. Bring up the sustain to have the full maximum sound. Okay, something a bit more smoother, and add a bit more release because usually pads have a fade out a bit longer than usual. Now we're gonna slightly modulate the filter with envelope 2. I like with pads to modulate it very gently, in a very subtle way, and so here it's just gonna be like 3%. The only thing is the envelope 2, we're gonna put it in cycling mode, so we're gonna click here. We're gonna select the rate sync and we're gonna choose 6 bar. Then you can slightly adjust the way you want. This is gonna be a very gentle modulation. Now we can use LFO to modulate different things as well. So we're gonna choose sync as well and a very slow rate. I like to choose different multiple of the rate, like for example 6 and 8. So it's kind of creating this polymeter in terms of LFO cycle. They doesn't resync at the same time. They always like kind of shift. We're gonna use triangle and we can leave the amount at 100%. Now we're gonna go to mod tab to select what we want to modulate, and we can modulate the high pass filter, but again very gentle. You can like very, you're gonna barely hear it. And the LFO as well, we're gonna modulate the detune of oscillator 2, but very gently. You want some very gentle modulation, you don't want something too abrupt, otherwise it's gonna sound weird. Now a great way to make the sound richer is to use the unison mode and detune the voice. gonna add obviously some stereo as well. You can use Drift to even enhance all of this detuning and this chorus effect. Drift's gonna slightly modulate randomly the pitch and filter of each voice. Alright, and we're getting there to this rich sound. Now that's great, but another way to add modulation is with filter. So I talk about the low pass and the high pass filter, but the great thing as well is to use band pass filter. So we're gonna stay with 12 dB and go maybe around. Well, the only thing is this is a bit too abrupt. We want to keep some of the dry signal, so we're gonna group this, Ctrl G, and here you have your chain with the auto filter, and we're gonna create a chain which is basically gonna be your dry chain, and we're gonna change the gain to -6 just to avoid to have too much gain because we duplicated the track. All right, and now this idea is to have this bandpass resonance filter. I'm gonna crank up the resonance. We can focus on the resonant one. Okay, and the idea is to have this up, actually 12, doing like that. So to modulate the filter, you can use the LFO, and you have a LFO here, so we're gonna... So if I crank up the rate... Alright, we don't want this type of effect, we want something very slow, so I'm gonna switch back to sync and to a slower rate. And now you hear that it's slightly moving. And this we're gonna layer it with the original dry sound. So now you have this resonant sound on top of it, which is really nice to add movement. Now I want to map the rate on the rack, so I need to map it here, macro 3 and then macro 3 again. So like this you can have direct access how fast you want your sweeping effect on your filter. Finally, we kind of need to add some spatial effect, which is gonna obviously add a bit of movement, but put it into a bigger space as well. So first we're gonna use delay. Delay, I like to use filter delay for pads. With filter delay, it's because it's filter, it's obviously gonna add more character than a classic normal delay. This is my default preset. It's kind of a preset I like. You can copy the setting and it's usually work well all the time. It has a bit of stereo, it has a bit of movement. It's just perfect. And then finally a reverb of mine I rename it Big Sky, this preset, because it's like kind of trying to get something similar than the Big Sky pedal from Strymon, this kind of very wash out reverb. I'm gonna map the reverb to the macro 4. And one of the characteristics of the reverb is obviously a long decay. You have an amount around 30%. The diffuse around 0, reflect around 0, which gonna really create this, yeah, very blurry, messy, washout effect reverb. Let me rename this. Alright, and that's pretty much it. You get your sound. Hope you like this video. As usual, you can grab the preset for free, the link in the description. This preset is part of my Ableton Drift Techno Bank. If you wanna grab it, it's a great way to support me as well. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.